Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Thursday, April 29th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi, and we all know it's not a new problem, but now a group of California mayors, including San Diego's Todd Gloria, are proposing a new solution to solve the problem of homelessness. As KPBS racial justice and social equity reporter Christina Kim tells us, with over 160,000 people without a home, the effort will be a costly one.
That we can't solve this problem in one fiscal year, but it's going to take the repeated commitment of state, federal, and local leadership to get the job done.
San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria joined 12 other big city mayors today to ask the state for a record-breaking $20 billion investment over the next 5 years to fight homelessness.
So as big city mayors, we are calling upon our state leaders for their continued partnership to take advantage of this once-in-a-generation opportunity to fund the housing and the services that we know work for people who are experiencing homelessness, and to make a lasting impact on this crisis that I believe all of us were elected to solve.
Here in San Diego County, the number of people experiencing homelessness doubled in 2020, and racial disparities continued, with Black people who make up 5% of the county's population accounting for up to 30% of the homeless population. Jonathan Castillo is the chief regional officer at PATH, a nonprofit that works with San Diego's homeless community. He thinks the push for more state resources is a great first step to scale up existing services.
The solutions work, they're effective, but we just need more of it, and I think what we're not also looking at is how much does it cost us to not implement these services? What is the cost there? That there's a big push within, the city and the county to really expand street outreach. That the way that you begin to work with people is by, building relationships and going out to where people are at.
Mayor Gloria allocated over $10 million to fight homelessness in his proposed budget, including $1 million to expand PATH's outreach program. If more state funding comes through, Gloria says everything is on the table, but he knows what works and what he wants to fund.
I would like to see us grow the number of permanent supported housing units in our city. That's how you solve homelessness. Housing plus services.
Democrats in both the Assembly and Senate support the $20 billion multi-year proposal. Governor Gavin Newsom will release his newly revised budget in mid-May. Christina Kim, KPBS News.
1 week after the deadly mass shooting in the Gaslamp Quarter, the man accused of killing a man and injuring 4 others appeared in court. Travis Sarashte pleaded not guilty to murder, attempted murder, and assault charges. If convicted, he faces up to 126 years to life in prison and remains in custody without bail. 28-year-old Justice Bolden, an Ace parking employee, was shot and killed in front of the Pendry San Diego hotel. The shooter then walked down Fifth Avenue and confronted a group of men, shooting 4 of them. No motive has been disclosed. Restaurants still struggling to stay in business amid the pandemic could get some relief from the county. Next week, Supervisor Jim Desmond will be asking the board to support waiving permit fees for restaurants. Desmond says that would save businesses about $1,000 to $2,000 each year. With the county in the orange tier, restaurants can serve their customers indoors at 50% capacity, along with outdoor seating. By June 15th, tier restrictions are scheduled to go away, but some business owners say that doesn't necessarily mean business will pick up.
I've had to come in every day with a smile on my face, not knowing if I'm going to be here next year.
This opening and closing was extremely hard for a lot of us, and it made it tough, the decisions we had to make. The bills don't stop, electricity doesn't stop, the health insurance doesn't stop.
The proposal to waive permit fees will be heard Wednesday at the County Board of Supervisors meeting. President Joe Biden made an urgent plea to all eligible Americans to get a COVID-19 vaccination as soon as possible. But with supply outpacing demand, the challenge is convincing those who are hesitant to get the shot. As Camila Bernal reports, this comes as new COVID cases decline in many states, but the threat of new variants remains.
Go get vaccinated, America. Go and get the vaccination.
Shots in arms needed to end the pandemic. That includes younger Americans and those who may still be hesitant. Convincing them now the challenge for the White House.
It is local doctors, it's clergy, it's civic leaders. So that's why our investment, $3 billion to do a big public advocacy campaign, is focused on empowering those local voices, because when your neighbor gets the vaccine, when your friend across the street gets the vaccine, you're much more likely to get it.
Vaccine supply outweighs demand in the U.S., but that's not the case in the rest of the world. In India, distraught families are mourning their dead. Sick people are being turned away from hospitals that have run out of beds and oxygen, and the number of new cases rises to record levels each day.
Is anyone going to take accountability for the thousands that are dying?
And it's not just India. Several countries around the world are seeing spikes in daily case counts, and the weekly number of new global COVID-19 cases is on the rise for the 9th week in a row. Many health experts in the U.S. worry about more variants spreading at home.
If a variant were to develop that was not covered by the current vaccines, we would all be in deep trouble.
Camila Bernal, KPBS News.
National City continued its 100-day COVID-19 vaccination campaign today with a special clinic at Sweetwater High School. The clinic offered the Pfizer vaccine, which is approved for youth 16 and older. The vaccine was administered to hundreds of Sweetwater High School students today. National City Fire Battalion Chief Robert Hernandez and his department assisted at the clinic, and he said it was incredibly positive.
They're influencing their fellow students to say, hey, are you not vaccinated? Are you sure you're on the fence? I think this is a great idea to create that herd immunity. So they're actually influencing at the high school level their other fellow students to come in and get vaccinated.
Organizers say they hope this effort encourages other school districts to vaccinate their eligible students. And if you want to set up an appointment for your teen, you can find a vaccine location close to you at kpbs.org. Just click on the vaccines link when you get there onto our homepage. Public school enrollment is down across the state, but the number of English learner students has dropped even more this past year in both the state and the county. KPBS education reporter Joe Hong spoke with experts and educators about this decline and how it could harm school districts.
The number of English learners enrolled in public schools statewide dropped by about 8% this school year, which is the largest drop in the past 5 years. In San Diego, the drop was even more dramatic at 12%. Experts say the decline can be largely explained by economic conditions that have been worsened by the pandemic. Students whose first language isn't English are more likely to come from low-income families who were hit hard during the pandemic year. Jorge Cuevas Antion is the district advisor for curriculum and instruction at the San Diego County Office of Education.
There are a lot of folks who are being priced out. Rents are still not affordable or controllable. I know there are research pieces out there on affordability in the country showing that our region of the state, of the country, is one of the most unaffordable for people who are working class or the working poor.
Among large San Diego County districts, the Chula Vista Elementary School District had the greatest drop in English learner enrollment. Overall enrollment dropped by about 3% at the district, while English learner enrollment dropped by about 19%. One reason for the big drop in Chula Vista could be that more students have mastered the language and no longer qualify as English learners, but others may have just fallen through the cracks, especially during the pandemic. Lelaine Perez is the district's executive director for English learners.
Now this year, not only in our school district, but across the nation, registration process occurred online. And so there are a lot of different challenges that could impede how we accurately can identify those English learners.
Educators across the county agree that while the number of English learners is smaller, they'll need extra attention to recover academically after a year of distance learning. Joe Hong, KPBS News.
The pandemic will impact our mental health long after it's finally over, especially for the young people who are experiencing significant life events virtually. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler tells us about one group of City Heights teens looking to reach out and support one another in a time of distance.
Kept apart during the pandemic, teenagers across the country have felt isolated, missing vital life events like their senior year in high school or first year in college. Advocates for Change Today, a group of youth organizers committed to addressing substance abuse and mental health issues in the City Heights community, is trying to bridge the gaps that have sprung up and where despair might have set in.
Over the years, we've been trying to run campaigns that just reach to people about youth and drug use because that seems to be overlooked. And I, as a member of my community, I'm tired of that.
A Zoom-based town hall for youth called Together by Your Side brings together speakers from the National Alliance of Mental Illness and the San Diego Boys to Men Mentoring Network.
It'd be nice to at least have people know that they're not alone, especially during this pandemic, because I know we all have our own problems, our own lives, and we just have to get through it. But we also got to remember that we're not by ourselves. We're not all suffering alone. We all have each other to look after.
The youth organizers have been working on the programming for months, helping to generate the next generation of community leaders. Rocio Hernandez was one of the founders of the group over a decade ago. She now works at Say San Diego, an organization focused on the well-being of young people.
We are looking to you for you to one day take over the group and keep the legacy going as it's been done with me. So we encourage them all the time that you can be in this role in the future because they really are leaders.
The hope is next year a similar town hall can be in person as the world, and young people especially, become closer to one another once again. Max Rivlin-Nadler, KPBS News.
The Teen Town Hall is ongoing right now. Middle and high school students interested in attending can go to the Advocates for Change Today Facebook page for login details. As the weather gets warmer here in San Diego, more and more people flock to the beaches, but officials are warning beachgoers of the actively failing bluffs like the one that collapsed yesterday afternoon at San Elijo State Beach in Cardiff near Lifeguard Tower 16. No injuries were reported, but the danger of the failing bluffs remains. Jeremy Belgao is a construction worker that takes his lunch breaks often at San Elijo Beach and sees people camped very close to those bluffs.
One of those things where the city puts the signs up, and I personally feel it's our job as civilians we got to do a good job of paying attention. And the city has done a pretty good job, but we also have to do a better job paying attention.
Coastal erosion researchers with UCSD told us that bluff failures happen often and go unreported. Beach visitors should keep away from the bluffs to avoid any accidents.
Well, a good evening to you. We're talking headlines first before we get into that forecast. Nice wrap to the week here in San Diego. Southern California looks great, but also, if you like the warmth, it's your weather. Above average temperatures, at least for the first half or into the first half of the weekend. So seasonable weather, temperatures where we should be for this time of year coming by Sunday. As for the satellite radar composite, we have just some clouds over the Pacific, and that's it. We're looking dry as a really big ridge of high pressure is in place. Tonight, mainly clear in the metro, low 60s, and we'll be quiet as well. Other cities or towns around the neighborhoods, well, we're talking temperatures in the low 50s there for Oceanside, Mount Laguna into the upper 50s. Borrego Springs, though, how about a mild 70 degrees for tonight's forecast? Borrego Springs, well, you go from a mild start to a really hot finish at 103. How about San Diego, though? Well, you'll be near 80, but still very nice day. But once you head over the hills into further into the country here, we're talking mid-90s around, further inland, not too far. We're talking miles away. In Mount Laguna, you'll be topping out around 70. So you're the cooler spot. Let's take a look at some of these temperatures, though. Records challenge for our friends to the west. Further inland, we're talking triple digits there in Palm Springs, California, where averages for Palm Springs should be in the upper 80s this time of year. So we've got the heat, that's for sure, in place, but there is a cooler front coming on down, and that Sunday, that's going to bring some big changes here throughout the Southwest. So get ready for a cool down. Talking coast to coast, well, let's talk about our coast. Temperatures will be in the 70s into Saturday, but then by Sunday, we'll be in the upper 60s. Further inland, we go from the 90s Friday to 70 on Sunday. So note Sunday. That's when we see the big time changes. Mountainous areas as well. You're going to be dipping back into the 60s there with overnights into the 40s. But the deserts, well, hanging on to some warmth, but back into the low 90s by your Sunday. Meteorologist Chris Nallen reporting for KPBS.
A proposal for hundreds of homes on an abandoned golf course in Rancho Penasquitos took a step forward today. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen has more on the project called the Junipers.
The Rancho Penasquitos golf course went out of business in 2015, and the property has been vacant ever since. Developer Lennar plans on building 536 homes on the land, 15% of them affordable for low-income seniors. Several neighbors called into a planning commission hearing Thursday, both in support and opposition. Opponents said the added population would make fire evacuations more difficult.
I would like to live out my life in my home, but not if high-density development puts me in danger because of wildfire risk. We need an additional permanent exit out of our community, and this must happen before the plans for the Junipers project are recommended for approval to the City Council.
Supporters praised the developer for its community outreach and the inclusion of more affordable homes on site than the city's minimum requirements. Planning commissioners also noted the official analysis shows the project will actually improve wildfire evacuation times.
We have a crying need for housing. We no longer have a crying need for golf courses, as was mentioned. And I'm convinced that this project does not provide a greater fire danger. In fact, I think it helps to mitigate fire dangers that already exist.
The commission voted unanimously to support the project, which is expected to get a final vote at the City Council in June. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
San Diego home prices are among the second highest increasing in the nation, right behind Phoenix. KPBS reporter Alexandra Rangel reports how the housing market is changing in the South Bay.
Realtor broker in Chula Vista, Ditas Yamani, says the South Bay is seeing a change in demographics of people moving in. She says a lot of young professionals and entrepreneurs are moving south. However, she says it continues to be the most desirable location for families due to affordability.
Are you seeing multi-generational families maybe move in together so they can afford a home?
Absolutely. That's in the South Bay. As I see the market, I see that trending right now, family members helping each other to be able to afford a bigger home, but at the same time maintaining that ability to be able to pay the mortgage.
Home prices in the San Diego metropolitan area are up 17% in a year as of February. This according to a new report from the S&P CoreLogic, Case Shiller. It's the fastest increase San Diego homes have seen in nearly 16 years.
Statewide, 758, but here in San Diego County, it's 800,000.
Yamani says the high price tag on homes is making it difficult for buyers to outbid their competition.
First-time home buyers, the competition is very steep because they don't have that extra cash to put in, because right now, asking price is this much, but the competition is steep, so they go over.
Yamani says the competition is due to a housing shortage. The average home in San Diego is sold within 6 days of being on the market. She says patience is a virtue, especially when it comes to bidding wars.
It took us 4 months and about 30 bids to be able to win that offer.
Overall, S&P CoreLogic says national home prices are up 12%, which is the highest in 15 years. However, record low mortgage rates are enticing home buyers. Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
The FDA is taking steps to ban menthol-flavored cigarettes and all flavored cigars within the next year. The goal, of course, is to reduce disease and death from those products. Menthol is the last flavor currently allowed in cigarettes. The CDC says more than a third of all the cigarettes sold in the U.S. in 2018 were menthol-flavored. Research shows people of color, low-income, and LGBTQ individuals are more likely to use those products and suffer related illnesses. A new study is highlighting the impact climate change is having on our air quality. It finds more than 40% of people in the U.S. live in areas with unhealthy air quality, and as Mary Maloney reports, people of color are the most negatively affected.
4 in 10 people in the U.S. are breathing polluted air, and people of color are suffering the most. That's according to the American Lung Association. Their State of the Air report found more than 135 million people in the U.S. live in counties with unhealthy air quality, meaning the air they're breathing has high levels of particulate matter, known as soot, and ozone, also known as smog. The American Lung Association says these pollutants can lead to issues with asthma and, in some extreme cases, lung cancer.
We're the ones who are causing this unhealthy air by factories, by motor vehicles, by even certain climate changes that we're causing that allow for things like wildfires to take place.
The report also found 61% of people of color are more likely than white people to live in a county with a failing grade for at least one pollutant, and 3 times more likely to live in counties with the most polluted air.
African Americans, persons of color living in neighborhoods that smog and pollutants and so forth are coming from the factories into their neighborhoods. Some of that is intentional in regards to kind of the structural racism that's allowed that to occur.
The American Lung Association says collaboration between the government and the community is needed to find solutions. For today's Health Minute, I'm Mary Maloney.
The cruise industry might be able to set sail again in the U.S. waters this July. The CDC is clarifying COVID restrictions, but says eliminating risk on cruises is not possible, so the idea is to at least mitigate it. Reports say cruise operators need to verify that 98% of crew members and 95% of passengers are fully vaccinated. The CDC suggests they conduct trial voyages with paying customers to test the new procedures before formally setting sail. It has been more than 2 years since the Children's Zoo closed for a major renovation at the San Diego Zoo. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson says new hummingbird and Komodo dragon exhibits highlight new high-tech and sustainable technologies.
This corner of the zoo is a bundle of activity. Construction crews are working to get the old Children's Zoo area ready for visitors. The southeast corner of the zoo has been closed since February 2019. The Children's Zoo isn't the only renovation project underway here. Crews are putting finishing touches on a new sustainable hummingbird habitat. Curator of birds David Rimlinger says San Diego is among only a handful of zoos that keep hummingbird collections.
I think hummingbirds are one of those few birds, like a penguin, where even if you've never seen one, you know that it's a hummingbird.
Hummingbirds thrive in San Diego, but don't exist in many parts of the world. The new habitat offers a chance for people to see the birds up close. And green walls like this will not only enhance the experience for people walking through the exhibit, but it's also better for the hummingbirds that'll live here. Remlinger says keeping the birds on display requires a significant effort.
They're not an easy species to keep. They eat more often than any other type of bird. They feed mainly on nectar that has to be replenished twice a day, and fruit flies. So we raise fruit flies for them to eat, especially when they're raising babies.
And the new habitat will help. Some of the walls resemble pillows. The rugged plastic is translucent, and it traps air in the wall.
The ETFE pillows, we call them, are double layer with air in between, and so that also helps us regulate the thermal control in the environments.
Vanessa Nevers is one of the project's architects. She says the enclosures were designed to take advantage of San Diego's unique environment to help regulate the habitat. She says it's part of the sustainability underpinning of all major projects at the zoo.
Sustainable design is becoming more prevalent and much more common practice in a lot of areas.
Construction manager Eamon Farrell says the sustainability discussion was underway long before the first shovel cut into the earth, and the process took everything into account.
What we've done now versus years ago is we box trees, we safely put them at a location so we can bring them back in. With the demolition, instead of loading it all up and taking it all off, we separate it into concrete, glass, steel. You know, we take the time to do that. That's all recyclable, and we send it to a source close by.
Farrell says the designers, builders, and keepers all got together early on in the discussion to see what new habitats would need to serve the animals housed there. For the Komodo dragons, heat is important. Herpetology and ichthyology curator Kim Gray says heat rocks, infrared lights, and even the natural environment will help keep the lizards toasty.
You can tell it's a little bit overcast today, a little bit cooler temperatures. In Indonesia, it might not be this cool, so we might allow them to just spend more time indoors in a nice warm environment.
Gray says the new exhibit will have a separate indoor area and outdoor space and a nesting area in the back, and Gray says that'll give the Komodo dragons a choice. The new habitats require integrated systems that Farrell says could be controlled by a smartphone. That'll make it easier for keepers to manage the two new exhibit spaces. But that ease of operation masks the challenge of making the habitats work.
The challenging part is the complexity. It's not four walls, a roof. It's not we've done this before, let's just repeat that construction process. No, we're dealing with live animals, and they all have different needs, and the collection is very dear to us.
The hummingbird and Komodo exhibits are scheduled to be open to the public this summer. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a good evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.